Okay, so we're going to move on now to parallel lines cut by a transversal. So first we need to know what that means. So sometimes your book will label parallel lines with two arrows, and other times in the problem they will say, let's call this line M and this line N. They will say M is parallel to line N, and the line that cuts those parallel lines is called the transversal. And we get three special types of angles when we have parallel lines cut by a transversal. We get corresponding angles, alternate interior angles, alternate exterior, and vertical. So when I get this, I look at this picture, I'm going to first go through corresponding. So think about what corresponding means. If I draw this in, oops, I didn't really cover my line, but up here I have four angles. I'm going to drag these red lines that I drew down here down to here. Which angles correspond? If I were to drag all four of these angles down, which ones would fall on top of each other? A and E are in the same spot. So angle A and angle E are corresponding. Means they are congruent. So that is the congruent symbol. All corresponding angles are congruent. So find another pair of corresponding angles. Angle B and angle F are corresponding. Angle C corresponds with angle G, and D corresponds with angle H. So these four pairs are corresponding angles. Next, we're going to look at alternate interior. So just break it down. Alternate means on opposite sides of the transversal, and interior means on the inside of the parallel lines. So C is on the inside of the parallel lines, and its alternate interior angle is F. So that must mean that angle C is congruent to angle F because they are alternate interior angles. There's one other pair, see if you can find it. Angle D is congruent with angle E because they're alternate interior. So alternate exterior is very similar, except now we're on the outside of the parallel lines. We're still on opposite sides of the transversal. So angle A is an alternate exterior angle with angle H, so they are congruent. Oops. And see if you can find the other pair, angle B and angle G. All right, and lastly, we already looked at vertical angles, but we can list some vertical angles. There's a lot in here. B and C are vertical. A and D are vertical. Find the other two. E and H and F and G are also vertical. So again, vertical means across from. So sometimes your book will tell you that the lines are parallel, and other times they'll ask you to prove that they're parallel. So it works the same both ways. If they're parallel, then corresponding alternate interior and alternate exterior angles are congruent to each other. Okay, so corresponding angles are congruent, alternate interior angles are congruent, and alternate exterior angles are congruent. The same works the other way. If you're given, let's say this angle is 70 degrees, and this angle is 70 degrees, because the alternate exterior angles are congruent, then the lines are parallel. Okay, so we'd have to say, it says if two lines cut by a transversal form pairs of congruent corresponding angles, congruent alternate interior angles, and congruent alternate exterior angles, then the lines are parallel. So if all of these angles were congruent because of their alternate exterior or corresponding or interior, then the lines are parallel. But if they tell you that that angle is 70 and this angle is 72, you could prove right there that these lines are not parallel because the alternate exterior angle is not congruent. So if you're trying to prove they're not parallel, you're going to be looking for alternate exterior, alternate interior, or corresponding angles that are not congruent. So when you're given a diagram and you're asked to fill it in, you should really only come up with two values because they're all going to be very similar. So I want you to pause the video and see if you can fill in the remaining angles in this picture. All right, so you can do this in many ways. I like to start with my vertical angles because they're the easiest to recognize. So this is going to be 72 degrees because they're vertical. And now I'm stuck. So I see that these two are linear pairs. So this angle right here and 72 have to add to 180. So 180 subtract 72 leaves me with 108. So this angle right here has to be 108. And that means since these angles are vertical, that one also has to be 108. And all of these angles right here correspond with the four up here. So I can just copy 72 degrees, 108 degrees, 108 degrees, and 72 degrees, just by transferring them all up because they're corresponding. Great. So pause the video and see if you can answer this question. Angles 2 and 7 are what? Angles 2 and 7 are right here. They are congruent because they are alternate exterior. All right. Next, see if you can pause the video and find what angles 5 and 7 are. Right. Angles 5 is right here and angle 7 is here. They aren't congruent, so all that leaves me with is they fall on a line, so they must be a linear pair. Okay, they fall on a line, so they're a linear pair. And a couple more, angles 3 and 7. Angles 3 and 7 are congruent because they are corresponding. And lastly, angles 3 and 6. Take a look at angles 3 and 6 quickly and see what you can come up with. Angles 3 and 6 are on the inside of the parallel lines and on opposite sides of the transversal, so they are alternate interior angles. All right, so I hope this clears up some angles. Make sure you're always looking. There are multiple ways to find angles. You can use all four. So corresponding, alternate interior, alternate exterior, and vertical are congruent to their pair. And the linear pair, all of those angles will add to 180 degrees. So your homework is page 24 through 25, numbers 1 through 9. Have a wonderful night.